Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the KBEAR KS1. So the KS1 is the 1DD smaller brother to the KS2. The KS2 was a hybrid last year that was a 1DD, 1BA. And it was a nice set. It had a really big sub bass. It had a nice sound stage. But for me, I actually preferred the one that came out a little bit before it was the KB04. It had this nice, tight, little faster bass. And the KS2 was almost a standard V-shaped hybrid, and there was a few of them that came out last year, all around the same price and kind of same sound. So the KB04 stood out for me, not so much the KS2. So the KS1 is along the same lines. It's another big V shape, but slightly different. I think it's more fun. I'm sort of more willing to pick up the KS1 more than the KS2. And it comes in at a super attractive price as well, which is kind of huge. So again, this one came from Amazon US, the Easy Ear store. If you look today, it's about $20. There's a 25% off coupon. I'm not sure how long that coupon is going to be in effect, but I mean, it's pretty amazing that you're getting a high quality set for $15 on Amazon, delivered in 2 days. So yeah, quite a steal at this point. So the way I had this one set up, the way I was listening to it, I realize it's a bit overkill, but so KS1, $15 ish. This is the KBEAR Limpid Pro cable. That's $30 ish. So that's two KS1s, and the tips are ASLA Sedna ear fits. Those are about $15, so those are one KS1s. So yeah, don't do the math on that. I wouldn't say that they're required in any way, shape, or form. It's just what I like to use. But the set that it comes with is perfectly fine. There's no need to quadruple your budget to get that set, but it is quite nice, and I really do love that Limpid Pro cable. So before we get into it, let me apologize on the first look video where I said, the bass was a little slow and too bassy, and a couple of really great folks, Intuit Reviews and The Vortex, appeared, and they kind of gave their opinion and said, no, it's not really like that. And I said, yeah, it's actually not like that. That was my version out of the box, and typically I don't do these first glance things for that reason. And if you watched a couple of my videos, I'll always have something like this that says burn it in. And that was what I meant on that one, was that first night with the KS1, it's going to sound a little odd. Mine was a bit slow. My BL01 was a bit the same way. Give it a little time, let it burn in, and it tightens up and speeds up a little bit. So again, thank you guys. Much respect for coming in and taking some time, because I respect you guys, and anytime someone shows up in my channel and takes the time to give me their opinion, I very much appreciate that. So again, thank you guys for doing that, and hopefully we'll see each other on each other's KS1 reviews. So what is the KS1? It is a big, bassy, fun set, and I'm not going to go super crazy on the details because it's one of those that you really shouldn't think too much about. It's at a very affordable price. It's super fun, bassy. That's probably going to either appeal to you or not appeal to you. This shouldn't be too much of a, thinking process. If you're a BL03 fan or even an 01 fan, it's along those lines. If bass bleed doesn't necessarily make you cringe too much, this is probably fine with you. If your vocabulary is clarity and cleanliness and instrument perfection, maybe not as much. So big V, lots of bass, a nice little boost to treble as well. It's just a nice, fun V shape. It's what I like. It goes great with a lot of popular genres, so I dig it. But like I said, so do burn it in. Get that dynamic driver moving a little bit before you seriously get into it. It's going to be bass heavy no matter what tips you put on it. So I do use these open tips in the thought that it opens up the mids a little bit. It's got tons of bass. If you could emphasize the mids, open them up just a little bit, that's a good thing. So that's why I use these tips. But again, not I wouldn't say it's required. It's just going to be a basic fun set no matter what you do. But the downside of that is the mids can go a little lean compared to the stock tips. That doesn't necessarily bother me as much, but do be aware that you should try a couple different tips on this guy. So, like I said in the first glance video, there was a thought that this was based on the BL01 beta tuning. I don't really know, and I think Larry Fulton will eventually confirm or deny it is, but I don't think we should too much worry about that. It doesn't necessarily sound like the BL01, and it just stands on its own. I wouldn't worry too much about should I buy the BL01 or this one, because this one is just going to be easier to drive. Tips are going to fit better. It's more comfortable. It's not hanging out of your ear. So I think generally it's just an easier buy than worrying about whether it's, frequency graph perfect to the BL01. I wouldn't worry too much about that. So on the bass side, it comes in a couple different flavors, big and big, but not really true. We'll get to it in a second. But it's really this nice balance between a huge bass sound and maintaining some control, so it doesn't go really distorted. It doesn't crush the mids. It's not overly dark. It's a really nice balance between, providing a set that bass lovers are going to love, but normal people can pick it up and not be, cringe too much because it's just bass overload. It's not like that. It's a really nice balance. Is it the tightest, fastest bass I've ever heard? No, but it does a really good job. So I think the BL01, my version, probably is a little tighter, and it's certainly less frequency response wise, but like I said, I wouldn't worry too much about that. This one is definitely pitched towards people who like more bass, not less bass. So big bass. So there's this new track, In Your Eyes, Robin Schultz. His new CD came out on Friday, in case anyone picked that up. So if you want to hear this thing, a really nice big bass sound, 24 seconds when the bass kicks in, really, really nice. And it's, it is that tight, controlled, big bass sound, just as you want in a very fun set. And then when you hear this set at 41 seconds, when the whole thing starts to rise, then you really get a sense for the V shape on this guy. It does have an upper end that will match this deep low end. And that's what I look for. I love when the two balance out, and this thing will rise just as high as it will go deep. It's really, really fun, energetic V-shaped sound. That's what I look for. And then when you get to 113 and the whole thing drops, and then the big rise and the big bass, and then you're very much into EDM, big bass, big high-end synth sound. So yeah, it's everything that I was looking for in a V-shaped sound. I think it hits all those marks. And at the same time, is it crushing the vocals? No, it's not. The vocals are still there right in the middle. Still, there's enough space around them. So yeah, done really well. And then on the lighter side, it actually will do lighter bass in a very delicate way. And I wasn't expecting that too much, but if you jump to Jasmine Thompson's Rather Be, and that 24 second, when you hear this light bass pick up right in the background, it's done really well on here, and it's kind of surprising. And her vocals, you get this full, but they're not BL03 thick and heavy. It's probably more like the BL01, and that's why I say, depending on your tips, her voice is going to go maybe a little leaner than you were expecting, maybe not, but do try your tips on those types of vocals where you're trying to decide, well, if I have a BL03, it's a bit fuller and thicker. On the 01, it was thinner and leaner. Try to get to the midpoint of that. But, if you jump to 133 and hear that shaker, you sort of get this first sense of how extended the treble is. Those higher frequency sounds, it's detailed and it's out there. But yeah, you'll get a good sense for the extension right there. So the mids, like I said, not BL03 thick. There's still lots of bleed there, but not that thick, but not BL01 lean either. And I know some people got really not too much of a fan of that leaner, more aggressive sound, that snare drum, those female vocals that, border on maybe shouty. I didn't necessarily get that on the O1, but I know some people were tracking that problem. Not so much on this one, I would say. So, Good Little Me Unplugged. There's this nice track by Little Mix. Little Mix is like 4 different female vocals, and it's a great way to hear a nice range of female vocals that don't go shouty at all. And their particular voices tend to bother me on brighter sets. They'll go a little sibilant, a little harder to listen to, and they're just kind of a treat to listen to on this set because their vocals, that piano, nice and tight, is very dynamic. And I had that one on repeat for a while. It's just a really cool tune, and it sounds great on this set. And, like I said, it's just like a step down from that aggressive BL01, that style of mid. And so somewhere in between the 03 and the 01, so it's quite nice. So on the not so good side, REM's Drive. Folks like to use that one as a test track a lot. And that one, I think you get a real sense for the bass bleeding into the mids, and it goes a bit heavy and a bit dark. It shouldn't go that far down. Even Michael Stipe's voice, it'll catch on this lower bit that'll definitely make you raise an eyebrow, like not quite there. So again, it shouldn't be super surprising that you're going to get a little bleed into the mids, and some male vocals are going to get caught up in that. So that's not too surprising. But then on something like Go-Go Penguin's Singlet and Noise, this mix of instruments, you just don't get that snare drum popping out like you do. I don't mind that aggressive snare. Some people really do. But on here, it's definitely back more in the mix. The drums have this, that thud with a very satisfying thud after it, that deep drum sound. So big bass sound, big drum sound. I like that sound. It's really nice. It's very satisfying. Like I said, the snare doesn't pop. Not too aggressive. The piano does pop, but the cymbals, about 310, that whole little section, I think this one suffers a little bit from a little off natural on the cymbals. They're a little flat. They're not quite as rich as they should be for me. And, I'm just kind of nitpicking that. But, this set for me is more of an electronic set than an instrument set. That's just the way that I go with bassier sets. I wouldn't necessarily put Hotel California on this one. I'm sure it sounds okay, but if that's your thing, I'm not sure you need a bassy fun set for that style of music. So I don't want to nitpick that too much. But on the upper end, like I said, it's just really extended, kind of surprisingly extended. Is it perfect? Not really. But for electronic, so Deadmau5 is Bridged by the Light Wave, that radio edit, when you hit that 1 minute part, when it's just going really deep and, it's going to rise really high, it just sounds really, really good. And that's where I go with these sets. It's that type of music, not so much classic rock or bands or anything like that. This thing is probably an electronic powerhouse because of how deep it can go and how far it's extended on the top side. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that one. So staging, mostly spacious, wide, not so much deep. I don't think it's even as big as the KS2 was sort of abnormally big for the set and the price. You don't really get that. This is more in line with the BL01, but the BL01 had some height to it, so you get a little extra space to it. This one was kind of more of, the vocals tend to be right in the center, but there's space around the vocals, so it doesn't really feel cramped. And then even when you go back to REM's Drive, that little bit at 2 minutes, the whole soundstage is filled with instruments and vocals, and it doesn't feel cramped. And his voice, you never feel instruments hiding behind the vocals. It's, width-wise, I think it pretty much nailed that size without being overly wide or overly small. It's just kind of just right. much like everything else here. It's a big bass sound done quite right, plenty of mids, plenty of treble. Is it the best at any one of those things? Probably not, but the whole thing taken as a package, as a affordable, bassy fun set, it's hard to complain. And like I said, I don't want to nitpick it too much because for the price and what it does, it's just really, really good. So again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.